Thanks. Welcome to our October 2023 edition of our Kentucky K-12 EdTech Leaders and CIO webcast. I'm David Couch with the Kentucky Department of Education. If you're new to this is something we do on a monthly basis with all of our districts. The only state in the nation that has been doing this, it still does this, or has even started doing this. So pretty proud of it. So this is our opportunity to kind of share what's going on at a statewide, national level, and also a chance for you to provide, feedback. And we have Go Soapbox out there. We don't have Go Soapbox questions like we normally have today, but we have someone that regularly monitors them, and we see what bubbles to the top. So anything you see on there, please go ahead and click on there, and we'll respond to those throughout the webcast. We always send you a copy of the summary and the highlights of the previous month, and we're going to be covering some of those. There's also the live video link if you want to hear all the details, and I appreciate Lisa Moore who does that for us for both our monthly OET team huddle with just our OET staff, and then also with the district. So that's the only state that does that, that really tries to make sure we have good communications out there. Before we get started, wanted to reflect back on my class reunion. My United States Military Academy at West Point class reunion was very recently, Wednesday through Sunday. It was the 40th class reunion. Yes, I'm 1,000 years old. And for a good number of you that are watching is you weren't even born in 1983 when I graduated from West Point. The cool thing about there is you see as you go back to those that part of what we do is we share information, but also as part of leadership. Leadership is an important part of what we do of our staffs and of our schools and of our students and teachers that we have out there. The coolest thing about West Point that I reflect back on is they recruit from every demographic of every state, every part of every state. And what's really cool there is you really get to see America. All parts of America. And one of the reasons they do that, and you're constantly mixed up, you have new roommates almost every semester, you change who you're in classes with almost every semester, and then it happens in the military related things there too. And one of the reasons they do that is they want you to be able to understand people of every background in the United States and work with them as peers, but also be able to lead them and take direction from people of all kinds of backgrounds. And so it's really wonderful when you go back, when I go back there and really see everyone from every background. Now, in 1979, when I entered the academy, we had 16 people from Kentucky that entered, and only 2 of that class graduated. And that's not that's not very good, obviously. The other one is Steve Jones. I'm from Johnson County, and Steve Jones from Lee County. We're the only 2 that made it through the class of 1983. The really nice thing is now you fast forward to 2023, and Kentuckians are doing significantly better in graduating from the academy in general. And part of that is I hope it has to do with something that came about in 1990 called the Kentucky Education Reform Act, which significantly changed the direction. It was trying to get equity of access and opportunity for all of our students. It was a belief that all children can learn at high levels, and really to change Kentucky's position, just not educationally, but economically. And I do feel the graduates that have gone there are much better prepared on all kinds of fronts, including academics, which I think increases their probability of success of making it there. I did get a chance to meet with Cadet Drew Hurley from Pikeville High School. He's now a sophomore. We call those yearlings in West Point terminology. And Drew's an outstanding young man, and it was great for me to kind of see how the academy hasn't changed and has changed. The uniform is spot on to what it was in 1979 to 1983 in almost every regard. The curriculum has changed in some ways, but for the most part, it's there. You take a broad base of academic content along with the things you're doing militarily and athletically that are there. But it was good to kind of learn from Drew, and I feel good about our future if we have people like Drew Hurley from Pikeville Independent our next level of leaders. And, West Point's mission is to prepare and develop the future leaders. And I developed a lot of my leadership style from West Point, my West Point days, which I greatly appreciate, which I've tried to share in words of wisdom, just like this, to our staff, because a lot of you folks are in leadership positions or will be in leadership positions. And just like, it's an important part of me for our STLP program. It's just not, technology program, a student technology program, the student technology leadership. And that's always been an important aspect to me since the very beginning, that we have a leadership portion of that, because it is important that we develop leadership skills of students at a very young age. It just helps better position them in life in a lot of different regards. The other thing I had a good chance is I met with one of my classmates. His name is Ross Flory, but he has a daughter named Jessica, who is an 8th grade teacher in Jefferson County Public Schools. And so Jessica was there, and it was wonderful, meeting, the daughter, one of my classmates, who is one of our customers, and a pretty power user of education technology in her classroom. She's a social studies and science teacher, and that was a lot of fun. As I also reflect back at what has changed since 1979 to 2023, I reflect back, and I constantly do. Growing up in Johnson County, I'm always very grateful that Johnson Central High School, I believe, taught the very first computer science course in Kentucky. If it's not the first, it's very close to the first, with a guy named Howard Ramey, who is an excellent math teacher, who said, you know what, we really need this thing called computer science in our curriculum. And he got pushback. Now remember, this is the late 1970s. And, this is really before the personal computer, before the internet, as we know it. And to have someone that kind of vision in your school system was very helpful. So I took computer math, as it was called, not computer science 1, 2, and 3, which included Fortran. And I've always been grateful to Mr. Ramey for introducing me to the next kind of thing I wanted to do in my life, which is an important part we'll talk about what STLP does, Jeff. It introduces, students to a possible career path for them. A lot of them get involved with the projects, but they'll be definitely during their lifetime, they'll be around technology-enabled services if they're not directly leading them. But definitely gets them, gets them introduced to the technology field in a constructive way, just like Mr. Ramey did. And I've always been grateful to him, because every cadet, now think about this, in 1979, it wasn't required to take a computer science course at Johnson Central in the late 1970s. But for the entering cadets of 1979 into West Point, every cadet, every freshman had to take computer science, and specifically Fortran. And part of that was they wanted folks to learn the logic, if then, what you get from that, whether you go into that field or not. But also, I thought it was incredibly visionary that they felt that those folks would be managing technology-enabled systems sometime in their lifetime. And you just think about that back, and obviously in 2023, that seems pretty obvious. But I don't think it was so obvious in 1979. If you fast forward now to 2023, every cadet is still required to take computer science as a freshman. The thing that has changed is pretty dramatically is the services of the U.S. Army have remained the same for a long time. But there's a new one that has been added. It's called cyber. And that has changed dramatically since I was there in the 80s. And also the thing that's changed dramatically is they are building a huge cyber facility on the West Point campus. And what that tells me is, besides the traditional types of ways that you find and that cadets will face in their future time in the U.S. Army and beyond, they will face this new kind of thing called cyber. And they want them very familiar with cyber defense, and then, in the defense of our country. The other thing I found that was very interesting to me, which we all need to think about as leaders. Now, think about West Point. My class of 83 has the second highest attrition rate in West Point history. Class of 82 had the highest. And what has changed dramatically since that time versus a game of Survivor, which it felt like at times, is the culture and climate. They really work on culture and climate now, and mental health. You can see with the cadets, a part of their curriculum is working just not on their physical health, but mental health is very important for themselves, but also for the people that they lead. And culture and climate is something incredibly important that we know, years later, and it's now getting its attention that is due. But I thought it's pretty interesting and important to share with you that at a place that is tough and as hardcore as a place like West Point, they have definitely transitioned to the people side more so than they did when I was there, which is a smart move. And I'm really, happy to see the transition that the Academy is making and focusing on those types of things, and also the traditional things that they focused on. We're going to talk about culture and climate here, and I guess this is a good time to share this now. And that's been important to me during my time as a leader here. And tell me if you all can see this.
You're good.
Yep.
Can you see that? Okay.
Good.
So let me go to the beginning. So we normally don't share this with districts, but I thought this is a good timing to share. This is something that Katie, the agency, does annually. That, to be honest with you, I would encourage every organization to do of their staff. Now, obviously, you all are aware of the feedback that we ask of all of you every year. The top 5 things we did well, didn't do well, what should our goals be for the following year, along with the rest of things in the digital readiness. And I think that's a good place to say and be very open about the things that we can improve on, but also celebrate the things that we are doing well on. Well, Katie, the agency, has been doing this for quite some time. And this is a survey that's offered to all parts of Katie agency. The results I'm going to be sharing with you are the results of the Office of Education Technology. The reason I share them, in order for us to provide good services to you, I think it's important, and it always has been important, and we also provide services for the rest of Katie agency. So you are a customer, and Katie agency staff, and we're the only part of 2 organizations that do both. But it's important that we take care of our staff, and it's important to, our staff know it's important we provide a good culture for them, and we want to share some of that. And I would encourage you to take a look at the questions that are asked of every Katie employee, and just kind of think about the feedback that you would get with your own staff as you're leading down this path. So this is the part of the feedback of Katie staff members about the leadership in their specific office. And you can see at the very bottom, the grand total averages of that. And overall, and I showed our staff here, if you add up all the numbers here, the Office of Education Technology had the best results of any office in KD. But I want to share some of the specific kind of questions and let you see, the parts that are important to me. And it'd be interesting if you ask these of your staff members. And obviously, you don't have all these areas here, but they should have felt comfortable raising issues and concerns to you. Do you maintain high expectations of employees' quality of work? Absolutely. Do they feel that we support them? Do we seek their feedback on a regular basis? And by the way, besides just getting your feedback, we also ask the same thing of our own OET staff. We get their feedback of top 5 things from OET leadership perspective and services that we did well, didn't do well, want to improve on. And they see that we just not take it, but we act upon it, which I think is an important part of leadership. You're just not listening, but you're acting upon that feedback. Obviously, what's important to me is there's a pretty high belief that our leadership acts with integrity, and that's always going to promote for me, and promotes an atmosphere of collaboration within the agency. So just not an area of collaboration within our own office, but our staff knows that it's important that we have strong connections and a good working relationship for other parts of Katie, the agency, since we work so closely with the Office of Teaching and Learning, Office of Assessment, that the school districts face on a daily basis, the Office of Finance and Operations, and all the other parts. The important parts is we work hard to maintain good working relationships and good services with them. Communications is always important, and you can see in this kind of category we rated the highest in that. And this is one of the forums that we use to make sure we have good communications with districts. Once again, I said, is we're the only state that's ever done this. This monthly meeting with the districts. I think Virginia is starting to, North Carolina is starting to pick this up, but not quite the same. But these are important answers to responses to me as well. And obviously that question of, we communicate with colleagues in a professional manner is important. With you all is super important. They meet regularly with their direct supervisor. They're not a distance away. These are all important, and just give some thought how would your own staff, and do you have something similar that gives that feedback to your staff? And the good part for us is when we do this, we can see how we compare to other offices that are doing this. But we're the only office I'm aware of that has a huddle with our staff every month, along with our district customers. So we probably over communicate, which is a criticism I'll take at any time. All right. What do the various offices report about the capabilities of the KD workforce? Now, part of this is, a feeling from your staff. Do they have what they need to do the work that they're needed doing? Once again, this was something that we scored extremely high on. That we do frequently ask our staff, as I said, in a variety of ways, including the end of year, is give us the feedback on how we can make this a better experience for you so you can better service our district customers. This goes back to, I talked to you about it, the West Point part. One of the best things is working with folks of every background, every part of every state. And there's a new question that asked that we scored high on, and we want to score high on, is KD is committed to including, embracing people from varying backgrounds and treating everyone fairly. And we work hard to do that. Is this place a good place to work? We work hard. We care about our staff. Absolutely. Do we encourage new ideas and innovation? I would say in technology, we better be very good at that, because we are constantly in an environment that is changing. And there's a tendency, and even for technology folks, to kind of get stuck with what they've always done. And having a safe place to work, recognized for their work, we try to do a variety of things and to recognize our staff and applaud them, give them a high five, and this being one of them. And just how do folks, this was a new question that was asked this year of all the offices. I think the part that the other offices came to appreciate about us, at least, are we prepared to handle an emergency? And just not the pandemic, but the two floods, the flood and the tornadoes that's happened in a very short period of time. Our education technology program, I would say, was the best prepared in the nation for those. Do we have good processes for our work? We're constantly looking at, reviewing, and improving ours, and I'm glad our staff feels that we do that. We're not 100% perfect in any of this. And we do spend time protecting the assets that we have. And that probably goes back to Army days, the importance of doing that type of thing. But once you see the questions and the feedback that our staff asked, I think that's the end of that. But I think it's an important part to share, and I hope you have some way to get the feedback of your own staff. Now, speaking of being very appreciative and inviting staff, Bill Coleman has recently announced to us that he'll be retiring at the end of December. And Phil's been a core leader, of CAT since 1993. Phil, you've always heard me say, everyone, says to me when my service in the U.S. Army is, thank you for your service to our nation, but, thank you for the service to this state. 30 years, I can remember you started at the very beginning of CATS. CATS started in 92, but really we had some temporary field staff there, but Phil was the very first permanent field staff member we had with a technology assistance team in Region 8. Eastern Kentucky was the very first part of our state in Region 8 to have internet access to every district. And Phil, that has a lot to do with you and your leaders, but also we had, people from that part of the state that were very aggressive, and people forget that the very first part was not different places in Central Kentucky, which you would expect it. They were Eastern Kentucky, that we had every, district connected, and the schools and classrooms. A lot of that has to do with you. And then I asked Phil to transition he and his family to Frankfurt and become our chief technology officer, which Phil has done since 1998. And he took over for a person that was a difficult person to take over for. So Phil, did a good job, and
Still difficult.
it's still difficult to deal with. But the nice part about Phil is, as I said, we have services to the agency who are very demanding. And we also, at the Kentucky School of Deaf and Blind and the area technology centers, but also, our districts. And, what Phil is, the chief technology officer is your most technical position in your organization. Phil has had a passion for this, a passion beyond the paycheck, as we call it, but Phil. And obviously, Phil could have gone to many other places. And, this is a historic moment because we have a few of our staff members that have been here the whole time. And really, this is the first loss of that core members that we have. And why everyone is replaceable is, the first person to do these things and be part of it understands why they were put in place. And not that they don't change them, but they understand when you change to something else, the impact it will have on other things. And I saw that when Dr. Boyson was here as our first commissioner under Kara, as we've had many commissioners since then. But Dr. Boyson understood the basics of why things were put in place, and they've changed over the course of time. And definitely Phil has been one of the ones that has changed major things to remain relevant. And I think that's why it's made us a national leader in K-12, is we didn't stay just where we were at, and why we want to celebrate and always recognize what we've done in the past. We have always pushed forward what best positions us for the future. And Phil has always been open for that. And Phil, I appreciate all those late night calls and email, which you don't realize when any school district is down, when any part of the agency is down, is Phil, is 24/7. And on top of that, and informing me until it's resolved. Whether it's 2 a.m, 3 a.m, I would get those emails from me from crazy time. And Phil's not one that walked away from the job at 4 o'clock. He had a passion for this to make a good experience for folks. And Phil, I've appreciated our relationship through the years. And I want to give you a chance to, if you can, to say a few words of what this means.
Well, I'll speak for most of our staff, especially our leadership team. Even though we didn't go to West Point, we feel like we've had West Point wisdom imparted upon us for 30 years. And I say that in jest a little bit, but it has always been an important a part of our leadership team is to learn those lessons. And we not only learn from David, we learn from each other, and we learn from you, from the school district. So it's been an incredible program to work for. We've had incredible tools, we've had incredible technology, but for the most part, it's been the incredible people that we've been able to work with, not only in OET with what I call Superman staff, but also with our school districts that are just incredible. And over the years, we've made lots of friendships, and we've made lots of progress. And if you look back on 30 years, the technology that we have and the milestones that we have done, I know we do a thing called a timeline, which is important, but that only captures brief points in time. And it's been an incredible piece of work. And, it's a lot of it, I give credit to our top shelf staff that we have and our top shelf customer that we have, which is our school districts. So, and I appreciate the words and the time, David, to get to just, say thank you to them for making my career incredible. So,
yeah. And Phil, I remember the transition from Floyd County to here. You'd lived there all your life. Your family had lived here. And don't underestimate the difficulty of a move. And you hung in there, family hung in there. But I appreciate you. And we've had a couple others that have made that leap, for the betterment of our state. But thank you so much for the service to our kids and to our staff. It's been wonderful. And I guess to say we'll be missed. So I want to do this early. We'll celebrate you in a variety of ways. Have fun with you, as you know. We always have fun with you. I was in the
fun with it. So.
I was in the KD leadership team meeting tomorrow, and I announced it. And what I didn't tell you yesterday, just the kind words that people said. Just so approachable and a good person. you're a good person. Not only a skill, but a good person and a good influence. And you've been awesome to have part of our team.
Yeah, I had people lined up at my door yesterday afternoon, so
Yeah.
it was fun.
So in brighter ways can say thank you to Phil. Some of you are brand new, but thanks for putting up with me for 30 plus years. That's you get an award for that. Of course, you're one of our our Stillwell Award winners for behind the scenes that we awarded before the pandemic. But you've always been a Stillwell Award winner of all the awesome things you've done. Much like most of your staff, they do behind the scenes. People don't realize all the work that's happening in the technology area in general. But appreciate all that work behind the scenes that you've done to make the special magic happen for kids for 30 years.
Where else? What other opportunity could you have to work on an enterprise the size of this one, and the importance of this one? And it's just always been my passion is to be a good steward of that and to make sure that we did it, appropriately and make sure we did it right. And it's always been a challenge, and I'm not sure after December the 30th, I'm not sure what I'll do I like to fish, but I don't want to fish all the time. I like to play golf, but I don't want to play golf all the time. So
yeah.
It'll be challenging for me to keep myself engaged like I've been engaged with this.
Well, you'll always be a welcomed alumni, as we welcome some former folks that I hope you'll participate in STLP. So Jeff would want you to do that and participate and stay connected with us. It's an important part for us. And
absolutely.
But I do want to celebrate. You definitely earned a retirement, and celebrate that part. And retirement doesn't mean I know you're not sitting still. You will be doing something, but well deserved. And thank you, Phil. Just personally, thank you.
Thank you, David.
This morning at 11 o'clock, Marty Park and I'll be joining him here soon with this webcast. This will be an abbreviated one, but I did want to spend time on a couple items here. Is the Kentucky Virtual Academy will have a legislative committee meeting this morning at 11. This is the Kentucky Virtual Academy, started in Cloverport Independent. I think Cloverport, before their Virtual Academy, had around 250 students. They've now had, at last count, 1,000 students join their Virtual Academy from, I think it's around 100 school districts across Kentucky. And that's going along with their existing 250 students that are in person. So there'll be a discussion, and we'll give you a copy of that. Lisa Moore, who represents a lot of different ways. Hi, Lisa. I think that's recorded, isn't it, Lisa? Won't that be recorded probably? You're on mute, Lisa. I think you're on mute. Sorry.
It will be, David. LRC, they usually record all of their meetings on their YouTube site, and we can send out that link.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll just share that. The format it will be is Marty and Mickey Ray, our Chief Academic Officer, and Matt Ross, who's Philly Robin Kinney, has become the interim commissioner. Matt Ross is now the Chief Financial Officer. And so those three will be at the table along with the associates in the background, presenting basically what we've shared with you in the past about full-time remote instruction. There's a regulation that was passed within the past year, so we're going to basically be sharing with the legislature the regulation and the conditions that were part of that. And there's not been a high percentage of students that are full-time enrolled. I think when I talked to Marty Park, I think it's close to 2%, 1.8% to be exactly in Kentucky, that we see they're full-time enrolled across Kentucky. So this is not a major thing, but there's a certain percentage of students that definitely thrive in this environment. You want to make that opportunity. So we'll be just talking about, virtual in general and the guidelines and the requirements that are there. And then the school district, Cloverport, will come up with their partner, and they've partnered with the company, Kentucky K-12, called Stride, and they will come up and jointly present and take questions from the legislature. So we'll share that. But just wanted to make you aware that that's going on. Mike, I did want to also share the next generation Kentucky Internet pilots. I know we shared live and with our OET staff and our OET team huddle, I think that was 2 weeks ago, what was happening in Bullitt. And I do want to just share, and I'll let you hit on a little bit. Charlotte Chowning Shelby County was the very first school district that was our pilot site back in 1993 for Kentucky. And they were the very first district to have internet access, Kentucky K-12 internet access. And Charlotte County was there when that happened. Fast forward, 30 years later, and Charlotte County is once again part of a first, sitting there with Bullitt County as the transition from KH3 to our next generation Kentucky internet service. So, Mike, I'll let you take it over from there. And Charlotte, if you want to say anything, you can as well.
Yeah, I'll say a few things real quick. We've got 3 sites that are now on the NGKI internet services provided by ENA. That's Bullitt County, as you mentioned, which was the first one, and then Todd County, and then Frankfort Independent yesterday evening was completed. And so those have all went well. They're pilot sites, so there are things that are being fine-tuned in the processes and some things that are being learned as part of those, which we completely expected. But the good news is we were able to complete all 3 of those successfully, and they're running on the new network services that we've put in place. So we've got a long road to go yet. We've got a couple more pilot sites, which we will continue to fine-tune the process and learn some things. The team overall, everybody involved, will continue to tweak again the processes a little bit more, and then we'll get into a pretty heavy schedule starting in November to continue to roll out and to be completed by July 1st of 2024, as everybody knows. So thanks to everybody involved in up to now, a lot of activity in the planning and prep and figuring some things out and so forth. Because we've mentioned it many times. This is certainly a very complex and complicated transition, and for a variety of reasons. Not going to go into the detail of all those. I know a lot of folks have been involved. The districts have seen a lot of activity. All districts have seen a lot of activity already as part of this transition period that we're in, and each one of them will have their time come up again over the next several months to transition, and again, we're off to a good start. We don't want to celebrate yet, but certainly it's a good start to the actual transitions happening. So I'll kind of end with that, and if like you say, Charlotte wants to say anything about that first one, and then I'd say if anybody else from the team's got anything quick to say about any observations, the KE group or Phil or anybody.
Well,
and if it's silence, that means David's going to jump back in.
Yeah. Well, I would just say when we joined that one from the OET team, how it looked like the space shuttle. You had everyone kind of gathered around. It looks like they were in space. Kind of remind me of everyone kind of celebrating a successful launch, and that was a cool thing to be part of. I did mean to mention this, and I'm going to circle back to it with Phil Coleman's departure. You'll see Brian Spellman. Brian, we introduced last month as the associate director. He is now going to be the interim director of that. So welcome to that new role, Brian. Appreciate you stepping up and filling that role. And Brian McHugh, who also leads our operations for OET, will step back into the interim, be an interim assistant director as we advertise and fill that position, Phil's position over the next few months. So I want to make you aware that we do have leadership that has stepped into that, and I have confidence in those. We call them Brian Squared, and those two gentlemen to carry us off to fill Phil's position. But I meant to mention that a little bit earlier. Dee Dee, a K-12 data systems update. I think school report card mainly we're going to hit upon. Is Dee Dee there?
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Now you're muted.
All right. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I'm struggling with unmuting today. Little things are getting me. So just a reminder, hopefully everybody knows school report card is set to launch October 31st. It'll be a later launch. Won't launch until 10 o'clock at night. The embargo period is October 30th through the through October 31st. So districts will first see their data and every other district data on at 8 o'clock on October 30th. They've been able to see their own data. All districts should have already reviewed their data. I did follow up with school report card contacts last week that had not approved data, had not put data in. The approval and the collection site is still open. It's beyond the timeline, but it's still possible if you feel like you've missed something, or if you want to take a look in the school report card site to make sure all your districts have entered their collection items or have approved their data. There is still time to do that. It'll go live whether you approve it or not. It just gives us some type of comfort zone that we feel like if the districts show that they approved it, we feel like good, somebody's looked at it. We don't want to put out bad data. That's not what we're trying to do, but the requirements for federal and state laws are that we have that data publicized in the fall of every year. So that is kind of just a quick reminder. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always glad to help. I've walked a lot of folks through different things, and if I'm not the right person to talk to, I bet you I can get to the right person. All right, David, I summarized. That's what I've got. I know we're trying to keep it quick today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Mike, Amy mentioned just our KET's first offer of assistance, kind of update on that.
Yep, the offers notifications went out last Thursday. The whatever that date was, last Thursday. The 12th, I think, is what last Thursday was. So everybody should have received those offers. If you haven't seen them, look for them. And if you can't see where you all received, your district received an offers notification, then that could mean that you haven't completed the items that are required to receive that first offer. I don't know that we had any like that. And then obviously check with your KE if you got any concerns or questions there. So that first notice went out. You've got that's the $12 per ADA offer. And then the second offer will be $9 for a total of $21 for the year. The second offer will go in March or April timeframe. Do remember you've got 60 days to respond to that. And we did very specifically try to identify that notification, the date we sent that out, so that the last date of being able to respond to that 60 days would not get commingled with a holiday break or anything, because that has been a problem in the past. So we're trying to learn from past experiences of those difficulties that have happened with that. But anyway, look for your notice on your offers, and again, you have 60 days from that date of notification to respond. In that letter, there's a little template, a little form of how you identify the amount you're going to match at that point, or if you're going to escrow any of it, and so forth. And again, if you need reminded on the details of that, if it's new to you, your KE will certainly be able to assist you and guide you on how your district needs to handle responding to the offers.
Thank you, Mike. Last month, we mentioned that a draft of the Kentucky Digital Equity Plan is out there. So that's bigger than Kentucky K-12. KDE, myself in particular, did respond to the recommendations being added to the draft. There's a tendency in plans in general, just to talk about what you haven't got in place yet or not doing well versus the things that you are doing well and have in place. And in the master plan, that's important for us to say, here's the things we want to do, but the things we already have in place. The same thing with digital equity plan. Focus a lot what we didn't have in place in Kentucky, but never really recognize the things we do. Like, and you probably never heard me say this before, but Kentucky is the first state to have internet to all of its schools. Throughout that entire plan about equity, it doesn't mention one thing that we've done in providing equity over the past 32 years for our schools, our public schools. So I had to remind them, there's a tendency not to put those in there. There's a tendency for a lot of those things to be woe is me, we're so far behind. So we'll see if they'll include that type of stuff beside, and we include a lot of other stuff that we're already doing. We talked about the ACP program, but before that, we tracked internet access, the equity, also just not in internet, but prices and services has always been a key part for us in K-12. And, the ratio of devices has also been part, 30 years. So we'll see if they add that in. I gave you the link. You can add some things in there. There's a capability for you to add some parts in there. The deadline was the 14th, but I suspect they'll take feedback for quite some time after Sunday. Follow up on a couple items from last month. We talked about last month, and you see it in the summary notes. the additional details that the legislators wanted. Robin Kinney, our commissioner right now, acting commissioner, met with the key legislators and presented that detailed information that you see in the summary note to them face to face and discussed that with them. So I feel good about that, being considered during that time as they're really putting together the legislative budget during this time right now. So this time for us and you all to make sure your legislators know the importance of increasing the KETS funding. The Kentucky Education Technology System funding. So feel good progress in that. Coding at the Capitol. We were doing that, the same kind of thing last month. We had to take off and go to that. I want to give you a report back. Sean Jackson did an outstanding job and our staff representing computer science, Office of Education Technology, and Kentucky K-12 EdTech. We are also very fortunate to have someone of Sean Jackson's capability. Of course, he came from Mason County to us, and very proud moment to have him up at the table, Jeff. Of course, we mentioned STLP a lot during that, as did I. There was a closed meeting with legislators that I got to be part of a panel discussion with them. And obviously, I mentioned the importance of STLP, introducing students to technology, but computer science. We have about 22,000 students there in computer science, close to 60,000 with STLP. And the cool thing, Jeff, is the students that were there with presenting, nearly all of them, including a junior engineer, is part of STLP and talked about STLP. So once again, it's one of our best messages. I give a high five to Mr. Ramey introducing me, but STLP is introducing a very high percentage of our students to the technology field and even the profession. And I talked about quite a few of the folks that have come back years later and said they chose the profession because of STLP, and we're getting ready to hit that 30-year mark of STLP and celebrating it, which it needs to be celebrated. We did a follow-up meeting later in the week. We talked about we're going to meet with High School Athletic Association about esports and with the esport coaches and with the appropriate CIOs and districts that have esports, particularly with the Nintendo Switch. I thought that discussion went incredibly well and was constructive and gave a couple of options for districts to consider. And so I just want to know we followed up on that. And I don't know if you've heard feedback on that, but I thought that went as well as that type of thing can go. And also a plug for, since we won't be meeting until after this happens, is on November 10th, which, by the way, is also Veterans Day. So I'll be celebrating both Veterans Day on November 10th and also be part of the KISTI Fall Conference. So I hope you will join that event and hope to see a lot of folks there. It was a wonderful event last year, and I know Neil and his team, the folks that are involved with that, will make that special again. I've not been monitoring Go Soapbox account. Other folks to do that for me. Those that have been monitoring that for me, is there anything that I need to address before we sign off here?
Nothing out there.
Okay. Well, once again, hope you all have a good rest of October and good Halloween. And I will. And thanks for all that you do for our schools with our staff and with our district staff as well. Take care.